What's up guys? It's Anmu Rev again with another video. Don't worry, I'm just the girl version for this channel. This is going to be part 3 of the Devil Fruit series. So if you haven't watched part 1 or part 2 yet, be sure to check out the links in the description down below. These devil fruits are not sequenced by the type, but rather the order of how they were presented in the anime. So before we start, don't forget to click that subscribe and like button down below. I hope you guys get to learn something new from this video, so here we go! First up is we have the Mogu Mogu no Mi, or the Mole Mole fruit, which is owned by Doffy, or better known as Miss Merry Christmas. The Mogu Mogu no Mi is a Zoan-type devil fruit that allows its user to transform into a mole hybrid and a full mole at will, making the user a mole human. The major strength of this fruit, as demonstrated by Doffy, is that the user is able to move underground as if they were swimming in a pool. They are also able to attack enemies with sharp mole claws the size of bananas. A powerful enough user will just simply smash through any stone structures in their way without using any speed wheels traveling underground. The tunnels that user makes by digging can also be used by their allies to aid them in fighting. Unfortunately, for the user and their partners, the tunnels can also be used by the enemies as well. The major weakness of this devil fruit is that all the tunnels that are dug are interconnected. So this means a large-scale attack like an explosion sent into the tunnels could greatly damage the user and their allies. Other than that, the user is also affected by the same main weaknesses as other devil fruit users. Next up is the Inu Inu no model Dachshund, or the Dog Dog Fruit model Dachshund, which is owned by Mr. Force Bazooka Lasso. The Inu Inu no Mi model Dachshund is a Zoan-type devil fruit that allows its users to transform into a Dachshund hybrid and a full Dachshund at will. The most basic strength of this fruit is that it gives its user the strengths of a Dachshund. In the case of Mr. Force gun, the fruit's most major strength is that it has given life to an otherwise inanimate object. Because of the stretched length of a Dachshund and the length of the cannon, the matching of the weapon with the power of a Dachshund seems appropriate for its circumstance. With this, Mr. Four has been given a unique weapon to fight with. With the power of the devil fruit, Mr. Four's gun has becoming a moving turret of sorts. The fruit so far doesn't seem to have any specific weaknesses outside the standard devil fruit weaknesses. The fruit, however, due to giving Mr. Four's gun life, has apparently inadvertently made it susceptible to sickness, as seen with Lasso's cold. Next in, we have the Ori Ori no Mi, or the Cage fruit, which is owned by Hina. The Ori Ori no Mi is a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows the user to bind their foes in iron shackles by having their foes pass either through the user's body or through the various metal bars the user can create. The major strength of this devil fruit, as demonstrated by Hina, is that it gives the ability to bind foes via two main means. The first is by having the foe simply pass through the user's body. The second is having the foes pass through the metal bars that the user can create. Hina has used the fruit's bestowed powers so far mostly for subduing of opponents. She can simply bind an opponent that passes through her, or be as complex as forming a cage from her arms to surround them. The fruit so far doesn't seem to have any specific weaknesses outside the standard devil fruit weaknesses. However, the user can unintentionally bind allies and prevent them from fighting. Next up is the Bane Bane no Mi, or the Boing Boing fruit, which is owned by no other than Bellamy. The Bane Bane no Mi is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to turn their limbs into springs, making the user a spring human. The major strength of this fruit is that it gives its user the ability to transform parts of his body into springs. By applying this to the legs, it grants the user amazing jumping and bouncing power, which can be used to launch himself at incredible speeds in order to deliver attacks enhanced by high magnitude of momentum. Due to the reactive force of bouncing off solid surface, the user can break apart said surfaces, as the Going Merry was split in half as a result. By applying this ability to other portions of the body, such as the arms, it can release strong, longer range punches. The user can also turn his abdomen into a spring, which grants him more flexibility. The weakness, though, of this fruit's powers lies within the self-propulsion by turning the legs into springs. The user can only be propelled in a straight direction, making it easy for the opponents to predict the trajectory and counterattack. Also, the user needs something solid to bounce off of. Thus, the direction is based on the geography of the battlefield. That being said, this also leaves heavy collateral damage depending on how the user decides to bounce. However, such weaknesses do not apply when the power is used to launch a spring-loaded punch or kick. Furthermore, this fruit depends much on the user's physical strength. The power would not be effective if the user is physically weak. Other than that, this fruit has the standard devil fruit weaknesses. Next in line is the Itu Itu no Mi, or the String String fruit, which is owned by no other than Don Quixote do Flamingo. The Itu Itu no Mi is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to create and manipulate strings, making the user a string human. The user is bestowed with the power to generate and control white, wafer-thin razor-sharp strings attachable to seemingly any surface, even non-solid targets such as clouds, from seemingly any part of the user's own body, even their innards, though mostly seen protruding from the palms and fingertips. Also for many diverse purposes, such as manipulating people's movements in a way reminiscent of how puppeteers control puppets by connecting the strings to their spines, swiping the strings to slice through things like body parts and weapons, similar to a piano wire or monomolecular wire, attaching them to clouds for aerial transportation, and creating masses of bundled up compressed strings for various constructs such as ropes, usable as whips, bullets, clones, and a humongous cage-like force or a massive spiderweb defense. Generally, it is unknown if there is a limit to the length and quantity of the strings producible. Though Flamingo himself called his devil fruit powers versatile when explaining his ability to perform an emergency stitching of his internal organs after getting them heavily injured by Trafalgar D. Waterlaw's gamma knife, thus rescuing himself from eventual death. Apart from that, the strings can be imbued with Bososhoku Haki, increasing their strength and allowing them to bypass devil fruit-based defenses such as Smoker's Mogu Mogu no Mi's intangibility. The strings possess such enormous durability and tensile strength that extremely few things and people can cut, tear, or otherwise damage them. Not even multiple of Isho's meteorites coming crashing down one after the next damage the strings that form the bars of a Torikagu in the slightest, not even burning them, instead being carved up. However, it is possible to overpower the bodily control of Parasite, as shown when Monkey D. Luffy managed to do so by activating Gear 4th, causing the parasitic strings to snap off his body in a way that made it unclear if they took damage from that. In the anime, Luffy's various Gear 4th attacks were also potent enough to swiftly disperse the strings, such as those of Goshikitu and even of Overheat. At the same time, the string's thinness makes it almost impossible to see them with the unaided eye. Making it extremely difficult to avoid their path, most people who do not know of Doflamingo's power become completely unaware of how their bodies are moving against their will. The sharpness of the Ito Ito Nomi's strings is such that Doflamingo can cut through the flesh and bone of a giant as huge as Little Ors Jr., firearms, the back of Bobby Funk, even a Bososhoku Haki-infused axe simply broke when swung against Bobby's back, and reinforced concrete with ease, all seemingly without being enhanced with Bososhoku Haki. Additionally, if awoken, the Ito Ito Nomi's power also allows the consumer to transmute power of the surrounding area, like the ground and buildings, into strings as well, something which, according to Luffy, makes it no longer resemble the powers of a mere paramecia. As stated by law, one of the ability's weaknesses is that the user cannot travel mid-air, with what Doflamingo dubbed Sora no Michi, when there are no clouds in the sky. Also, the strings seem to be incapable of cutting sea stone, a nigh-indestructible material that nullifies devil fruit powers. Bososhoku Haki also helps others with preventing the strings from cutting, as seen when Roronoa Zoro, Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Isho manage to use their Haki on their weapons and attempt to push back Doflamingo's Torikagu without letting them take damage. Also, the strings will disappear into thin air if the user loses consciousness, as seen when the Torikagu surrounding Dressrosa gradually vanish after Luffy had defeated Doflamingo. Besides that, the user is still affected by the standard devil fruit weaknesses. Next up is we have the Goro Goro Nomi, or the Rumble Rumble fruit, which is owned by Enel. The Goro Goro Nomi is a Logia-type devil fruit that allows the user to create, control, and transform into electricity at will, making the user a lightning human. It was mentioned by Neko Robin to be one of the fruits with the reputation of being invincible. The fruit's major strength, as with all Logia fruits, is that it allows the user to control, create, and transform into the element in which they control. As the Goro Goro Nomi's element is lightning, Enel is able to control, create, and transform into lightning. Enel is able to regulate the voltage of his electricity, with his maximum output being 200 million volts, thought not as much as the voltage of a standard bolt of lightning, which is 1 billion. He is able to avoid normal physical attacks by turning his body into lightning, allowing the attacks to pass through him. On top of that, he can merge with solid matter, like gold or wood, for defense or traveling purposes. Also, by transforming into lightning, Enel can electrocute anyone that is touching him. The user can travel at the speed of lightning by transforming into it. Enel can use his fruit to jumpstart his heart if it enters a state of cardiac arrest by applying jolts of electricity easily into his body. While seeming all-powerful, the fruit has a unique weakness in a form of rubber. As rubber is a natural insulator, this weakness makes the user of the Gomu Gomu Nomi the natural enemy and counter to the user of the Goro Goro Nomi, as the body of the user of the Gomu Gomu Nomi body is completely composed of rubber. All of Enel's lightning-based attacks had absolutely no effect on Luffy. In addition, all of Luffy's attacks managed to completely bypass Enel's Logia form, similar to how he was able to bypass Crocodile's Logia intangibility by dosing him with water. Only that he used devil fruit power alone and no other additional substance. It is unknown if other insulators have the same effect on Enel's Logia form. Nami was able to deflect some of Enel's lightning with her climb attack, though Enel claimed this would have been ineffective against higher voltages. Like with other devil fruit users, Enel is still vulnerable to being submerged in water and being in contact with the sea stone. Next up is we have the Noro Noro Nomi, or the Slow Slow fruit, which is owned by Foxy. The Noro Noro Nomi is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to emit neuroma photons. These are microscopic particles not yet fully understood by science that significantly slow down any object they touch for 30 seconds, making the user a neuroma human. The major strength of this fruit, as demonstrated by Foxy, is that it gives the user the ability to generate and emit beams of neuroma photons, which they can use to slow down anything for 30 seconds. In that amount of time, the user can do anything to the slowed down object. According to Foxy, neuroma photons are not fully understood by science yet. When a person is hit by these beams and receives any number of strikes while in the slowed down state, the kinetic force of the strikes to them is released all at once when they return to their normal speed, thus making the attacks more damaging. Noro Noro beams, being beams of light, can be reflected by mirrors. This can allow the user to create interesting attacks that can catch their opponent off guard. The major weakness of this fruit's power is that the user is not immune to the effects of his or her own photons and will be slowed down if exposed to them. In the anime, the beams can also only slow down something roughly the size of the beam itself, such as it slowing down only a small fraction of a tidal wave and leaving Foxy vulnerable to the remaining waves. Other than that, the user is also affected by the standard devil fruit weaknesses. Next up is we have the Hie Hie Nomi, or the Ice Ice fruit, which is owned by Kuzan. The Hie Hie Nomi is a Logia type devil fruit that allows the user to create, control, and transform into ice at will, turning the user into a freezing human. This fruit's major strength is that it allows the user to turn himself as well as surroundings into ice. With this power, running for a 10-day battle, it was strong enough to permanently change the weather of one half of the island into a freezing wasteland. This fruit is a superior power compared to that of the Yuki Yuki Nomi, as ice is a superior freezing agent to snow. While other Logia fruits give their users the ability to dissipate of harm's way by turning into their respective elements, it is interesting to note that this fruit is one of the few Logia fruits that can be hit with a physical attack. This is mainly because ice is a solid state element, and thus, the user cannot simply dissolve out of harm's way as most Logia users can with their fluid bodies. However, most attacks are still ineffective against this fruit because its user can simply shatter and reform the ice composing them on impact. It's also apparent that the user can control the ice in his body to mold it and change its shape, as seen when Kuzan formed a hole in his chest before Whitebeard stabbed through Kuzan with his Bisento, allowing Kuzan to avoid contact with the Haki-infused weapon. The user can instantly freeze anything that comes in contact with them, whether the user grabs onto the foe or the foe makes contact with the body's user. If the frozen area is not treated properly and immediately, then the resultant frostbitten areas will suffer permanent tissue damage. If the body is frozen entirely, the victim can survive for a certain period of time and can be saved if thawed out carefully, but will be left in a very brittle form that will result to instant death if shattered. In order to thaw properly, the victim's body must generate heat internally by putting low temperature water onto it continuously until defrosted, and then massage the frozen area if eternal heat is applied. It will cause the frozen tissues to crack. Kuzan has resistance towards cold, due to his devil fruit's element being able to move around in the cold environment with barely any protection. The ice seems to cancel out with fire when they clash, as seen against Portgas D Ace's Mera Mera Nomi. However, the ice seems to be ineffective against Whitebeard's earthquake abilities, since the freezing powers against the Great Pirate failed due to the ice shattering before disabling the target. The vibrations from the Goro Goro Nomi also shattered the ice and kept Whitebeard from being frozen solid. In addition, Akainu was also able to melt the ice generated by Kuzan in seconds. However, it should be noted that Kuzan was able to fight against Sakazuki on equal terms for 10 days straight. Kuzan is also able to travel great distances and move at high speeds by turning his entire body into ice, as seen when he moved from his seat to the execution platform into the air to freeze 2 tsunamis created by Whitebeard. Most of this devil fruit attack require Kuzan to be in physical contact with his enemy to directly freeze them, yet Kuzan has found his way to extend his combat range, such as creating ice spears or ice tridents. Kuzan is one of the few devil fruit users who is capable of counteracting his weakness against falling into water, as he can simply freeze it and create a surface to stand on, saving him from sinking and drowning. So next in line is the Doa Doa Nomi, or the Door Door fruit, which is owned by Bluno. The Doa Doa Nomi is a paramecia type devil fruit that allows the user to create doors through anything they touch, making the user a door human. The doors they create can be created from any part of their body, from the palm of their hands to their whole body itself, and usually take the shape and form of the body part creating it. The doors remain as passageways anyone can pass through until closed completely. The fruit's first and foremost strength, as demonstrated by Bluno, is that it gives the user the ability to create a door on almost any solid surface so that they can enter through. This allows them and anyone else passage to the object no matter how thick or strong it is. Though this ability is normally used to gain free passage, the user can also exploit this in other ways, such as trapping an opponent's feet in small doors created underneath them. This power can also be used on living persons as well, and can thus be used to deter opponents by creating doors on their bodies in order to immobilize them. One of the greatest strengths of this fruit's powers, however, is that the user can also create doors through the very atmosphere itself. These air doors lead into pocket dimension of sorts that is apparently within the air itself. This is ideal for stealth purposes, since this dimension not only allows the user and anyone else to travel across vast distances, but also provide a safe haven for them to stay in, which they can either observe and ambush enemies from, or survive through large-scale attacks. Its only downside is that while inside the pocketed dimension, the user has no means to interact with the real world other than to exit first to return themselves back there. Perhaps the fruit's most prominent weakness is that once doors have been manifested, rather than remaining that way indefinitely, they will automatically reseal themselves once again after a set amount of time, regardless be it by Bluno's volition or simply by their own. This was seen when Luffy's face, after being turned partially into a revolving door by Bluno, reverted back normally shortly after that. According to Bluno, this is because if a door is opened, it must be closed. Also, the Doa Doa Nomi is one of the few paramecia fruits unable to directly injure or kill the opponent, meaning it has very few offensive capabilities. Other than that, the fruit is weak against the standard devil fruit weaknesses. Last up for this video will be the Neko Neko Nomi model leopard, or the Cat Cat fruit model leopard. The Neko Neko Nomi model leopard is a Zoan type devil fruit that allows its user to transform into a leopard hybrid and a full leopard at will, making the user a leopard human. The fruit's major strength, as demonstrated by Lucci, is that the user gains more physical strength in their hybrid and full leopard forms, equivalent to that of an actual leopard and more. Their half-leopard body form is extremely large because it increases their original height and mass by a great degree. Fighting styles and abilities like Rokoshiki are greatly enhanced by the power of the fruit. Powers of the fruit have been used mostly by Rob Lucci for combat purposes and to further fuel his lust for battle. Lucci notably uses the fruit's powers to make his rokoshiki techniques like Shigan and Rakyaku more powerful with the addition of his claws on his fingers and the added strength to his legs respectively. Lucci, unlike other Zoan users so far, has also used the fruit's powers for more bestial manners, having used the full leopard form in battle to attack Luffy like a real leopard with claws and teeth. As stated by Tony Chopper, Zoan that turned into a carnivorous animals are so much more ferocious than others by nature. According to Lucci, those who have eaten fruits like it are highly specialized in physical strength and close combat. The fruit so far doesn't seem to have any specific weaknesses outside the standard devil fruit weaknesses. So that's it guys for today's video, part 3 of the devil fruit series. I hope all of you guys learned something new, and if you did, leave a comment, like, and share this video to others, and don't forget to subscribe. And be prepared for part 4 of the devil fruit series coming up soon. Buyers!